The archaeological evidence is the Pool of Bethesda, mentioned in John 5, has just recently been archaeologically found.
So we have one. Give me another
No,
one.
a Pool of Bethesda. We have Bethlehem.
We
have Nazareth. We have Rome.
Geographical places.
We have Julius Caesar, Tiberius Caesar. We have Pontius Pilate. Archaeological digs have exposed that these people are not made up by the New Testament.
Really quick.
They're in the Roman record.
I have just something I wanted to say specifically about if the Bible says that a certain archaeological site exists and we find it 1,000 years from now, then we are to assume that all the miracles that Jesus did and all those things are true. So if 1,000 years from now...
No, sir.
No, hold on.
That is not my argument.
Hold on.
My argument is not that the miracles occurred. You got to be honest with me. My argument is the New Testament historically reliable?
But the things are on a claim by claim basis, because here's the problem: if archaeologists like 10,000 years from now dig up New York City, does that mean that also Spider-Man existed?
No.
Well, they're gonna find comic books of Spider-Man.
If we find this pool that's mentioned in the Bible, does that mean anything about Jesus is true? That he was born from Mary?
That is not my point.
That he was crucified?
You're attacking a straw man. You're doing a very good job. That was not my point. My point was not that because the Pool of Bethesda is there, that all that Jesus is said to have done in the New Testament is true. That's not my point.
You're saying
my point is because exactly 4 tests. You take those 4 tests together. The historical evidence is the Gospels are reliable.
So because you find this pool or any other archaeological site that also exists in the Bible, means that we are assuming that all of the New Testament is reliable and true. That is...
I had 4 tests. I gave you 4 tests.
I
said you take those 4 tests together.
Determine? What do they determine?
The historical reliability of the document, the New Testament.
Who made up these
exactly.
tests?
That's what I said. So, no, hold on. So,
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So, if we are to assume, so we find these archaeological sites, then that shows the historical accuracy of the entire New Testament, so we can assume the entire thing is true.
No, the Gospels.
Including the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, all the miracles he performed, etc.
Crucifixion.
So you're saying by finding all these archaeological sites, we can assume that Jesus was God and that he did all these things?
No.
Then
the next step is you have to read the New Testament and ask yourself, does the historical evidence of the way he lived, taught, died, and rose from the dead point to his credibility, or does it not? That's what you have to do.
So you're saying that the archaeological evidence contributes to the Bible being reliable, and so if the Bible's reliable and you can use that, then you can use the Bible to say that Jesus is a person.
Well, then you have to read the text and you have to ask yourself, does the text, which is historical in nature, point to the credibility of Christ, or does it not?
I asked a particular
I'm answering your particular question very clearly.
No, he's not.
Why, what did I miss? Tell me what I missed.
When I asked, you're using archaeological evidence to prove that the Bible is reliable.
No, it's one of 4 tests.
Yes, one of 4.
One of 4 tests that I use on any document.
All right,
the Quran,
right.
the writings of Suetonius or Tacitus.
You got it.
Those are the 4 tests that I use.
All 4 things. So you're saying that this one thing is one of the things that helps establish that the Bible is reliable, correct? Just yes or no?
No. The New Testament, guys.
New Testament.
Some people don't have a problem with me talking about the New Testament. We're sticking with that. The New Testament.
New Testament.
So you're saying that is what is being... So after you prove that the Bible is reliable, then you're using okay, look, the Bible's cool, it matches up. One of the things being archaeological evidence. And then you're saying now since all 4 meet up, we can go and we can look into the validity of Jesus performing miracles and stuff like that.
Okay, I was asked a question. Why do you trust the New Testament? My answer is, before I accept any document, be it the New Testament, be it the Quran or whatever, I apply 4 tests. Literary style,
oh my God,
archaeological evidence, internal consistency, and archaeological evidence.
What is literary
That is
style
why
have to do
I
with
accept the
anything?
Quran as historically reliable, because the Quran passes those 4 tests. That's why I accept the writings of Josephus, the Jewish historian, as historically reliable, because it passes those 4 tests. Now, if you don't like my tests, no problem, but I just want to hear from you, what are the tests that you use to determine historical reliability?
I still take issue with your claim that if it passes these 4 tests, we can assume the entirety of the New Testament is true. Because you're saying if it passes these 4 tests... That's what you. So the 4 tests are to determine whether or not we can trust the New Testament. That is
No,
what you
the
said.
Gospels.
The Gospels, the New
The
Testament.
writings of Paul are not historical narrative.
Okay.
They're teaching.
All right. So
And
just
it's
the
not the
Gospels.
New
Just the
Testament,
Gospels.
it's
That's
the
fine. So that's fine.
The
So these
Gospels
4
are the
tests-
historical record of Christ.
So
Revelation's
these
not
so these
Right.
4 tests determine whether or not we can trust the entirety of the Gospel. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So again, things are on a claim by claim basis. If we are to assume that, or if we see in archaeological digs that we find some place that's in the Bible that's also in the Gospel, and then we find this place, does that prove that we can trust all the Gospel, including the claims that Jesus rose from the dead and then he performed all these miracles, et cetera, et cetera? Because, again, just because, let's say, 10,000 years from now, archaeologists dig up New York, does not mean that we assume that all of a sudden also Spider-Man existed. Things go claim by claim basis.
Spider-Man's fictional.
Yeah, and so because of that same logical progression, you're saying the same thing. It's like, okay, we find this archaeological place, and that means that we can trust the entirety of the gospel, including the claims about Jesus and his divinity and rising from the dead, et cetera, et cetera.
That's not my point.
What's your
You've
point?
missed my point. My point
So,
is,
explain.
the 4 tests that I gave you are not to answer the question, is Jesus God?
They're to determine
No.
whether we can trust the New Testament, or the
You,
gospel.
they are the 4.
See if
Well,
we
you
can
go
trust
ahead and talk, and when
We
you're
asked
finished,
you
then I'll
what you
answer you,
believe
okay?
and
Go ahead. What's your
why.
point?
How
Well,
does that show that?
So you said, so I just want to make sure that this is correct. You said that the tests are to determine whether or not we can trust the gospel
He's trying to say
As historically reliable.
as historically reliable. Correct. So, and if we can say that it's historically reliable because of archaeology and all the 3 other tests.
Literary style,
Literary style,
internal consistency, archaeological evidence, and manuscript evidence.
Okay.
Very important.
So those 4 tests are to determine that the gospel is correct. So if it passes these 4 tests, we can determine that all of the gospel is correct, not claim by claim, but we can just assume the whole lump sum of it is correct and true and historically accurate.
It passes those tests, so the evidence is it's historically reliable.
Okay, so because of those archaeological digs, because we found some pool somewhere, we are to assume now that Jesus rose from the dead.
I've said it over and over. 4 tests, not 1 test.
I don't think your job right now is to find out what's true because you keep dancing around this wordplay. I think that you're just trying to convert people.
All right. What do you think about Jesus?
I don't think that. I don't even know if he existed, and if he existed, he definitely didn't exist in the way that the New Testament says.
Okay, what are you living for, and what's the evidence that whatever it is you're living for is true?
What am I living for?
What are you living for, and what's your evidence that whatever it is you're living for is true?
I want to love, live, and enjoy time with friends, family, and.
Okay, what's your evidence that the
life.
purpose of human existence is to love, live, and live with family? Why do you do that?
That's assuming that there is some sort of objective source of what everyone ought to do.
No. What it's assuming is that you told me the truth when you said what I'm living for is to live, love, and have a good time with my family. That's
what
all
it
I'm
said for me.
assuming, what you've claimed.
That's a particular claim about myself.
Yeah, so what's the evidence that that's the purpose of human existence, to live, love, and enjoy your family? Why do you do that?
You're jumping and assuming that I think that it's for all of human existence.
He's kind of asking for your existence. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, what's your reason for doing it?
I mean, it's based entirely on opinion. I enjoy it. I enjoy those things. I love people.
Okay. Notice that I never once said, I believe in Jesus because I enjoy it. Instead, I've appealed to an objective historical record, the New Testament Gospels. You read them for yourself, don't take it from me, and ask yourself, does the historical evidence of the way Jesus lived, taught, died, and rose from the dead point to him being a fraud, a charlatan, or does it point to him being reliable?
That's assuming that that is in fact the objective source. The
No,
Gospels
it's not
are, and
assuming.
that's assuming that.
We've been going over this.
I mean,
4
if-
tests to
if-
determine the historical
I already
reliability.
talked about your 4 tests. It does not. We can't just say because we found some pool somewhere that we can also include the divinity of
All
Jesus
right,
Christ.
then you don't like my 4 tests, so please give me better tests that you use to determine historical reliability of any document.
A lot of the same tests as you, but
Oh!
Withics knows that there's a lot.
Oh! Thank you for that compliment.
There's a big exception though.
All right, what's the exception?
We go on a claim by claim basis. We're not to assume just because what we found. If we find, for example, if we, like for the pool,
Yeah.
that pool. If we find that pool, we can conclude that there was a pool here. Somebody created that pool. And if we find maybe some footprints or something that people bathed in that pool, we aren't to assume, oh, this other document had this pool, so everything in that document must be true.
So that was.
It's
for sure. We agree.
It's a claim by claim basis.
That's right.
So it's a lot of the same test, but it's on a claim by claim basis.
Fine. But the evidence is the Gospels are historically reliable, so read them and find out, wait a second, is there mythology mixed in here? Is there parable mixed up in here? Obviously, yes, Jesus spoke in parables at times. So obviously his parables are not historically accurate presentations. He spoke in parables. Obviously he used hyperbole. He said, I tell you the truth, unless you hate your father and mother, your wife and children, you cannot be my disciple. That does Jesus literally in Luke 14 say, I'm to hate him? No. When you read it in context, respecting literary style, you know that that is hyperbole, an extreme form of speech to make a point. So no, I don't accept everything as being literal. I allow a speaker to use hyperbole, metaphor, simile, parable.
No, I never disputed that. I'm talking about when we are talking, but the claims about Jesus' divinity and the miracles he performed, those are truth claims. Those are things that you'd have to have evidence for.
You bet.
And I also have the question, if God's concern was to save as many people as possible, I don't know why he wouldn't wait until we developed the technologies of cellular devices and satellites and where we could project this stuff all over the place to save everybody. But with that, I have a paper I have to finish and go to the library and finish.
Such a delight to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
You essentially said earlier that God doesn't do certain things because he acts rationally. What defines the rationality that he acts behind? So, what defines the rationality that he acts behind?
You bet.
Is there some like
reality?
Okay.
It is impossible for God to make a square circle. Why? Because square and circle contradict each other.
So then,
It is impossible for God to exist and not to exist in the same way at the same time. You cannot exist and not exist in the same way at the same time. It's impossible. It's contradictory. So God does not dabble in the irrational in contradictions. He doesn't make square circles. He doesn't make 2 + 2 = 5.
yeah. So then there's something kind of a little bit deeper than God that defines what could be rational and what couldn't be.
Oh, okay. No, I would argue that God created in a rational way. God is eternal, no beginning, no end, and when God created, he created it in an orderly, rational way. So, God did not create the law of gravity to be suspended when I want to jump off the top of that building. No, he created consistently. The law of gravity works. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, that's order.
So then in the context of some of the miracles, you discussed some yesterday, like splitting of the sea and whatnot.
Yes.
So if his intervention there kind of goes against what is rational, then what gives that more credence or more believability than something like also what was discussed yesterday, like some of the more fantastical aspects of mythology?
You bet. Great question. All right. The splitting of the Red Sea or any other miracle is based on the idea that a supernatural God created the laws of nature. But the God who created those laws of nature can change them. And that's what a miracle is. God intervening and changing a law of nature. That all of a sudden the Red Sea is split. All of a sudden Jesus turns water into wine. All of a sudden Jesus walks on water. That is a changing of the natural law that God created.
And wouldn't that contradict the whole idea that he's bound by rationality? Or that he acts solely rationally, or not necessarily solely rationally, but that he acts rationally?
I would argue, when you look at the miracles that Jesus performed, you'll notice that they're very reasonable. Meaning by that, he feeds hungry people by taking 5 loaves and 2 fish and multiplying them. He heals a blind man by opening his eyes. God splits the Red Sea in order to save the Jewish nation from being wiped out by the Egyptians. So when you look at the miracles of Jesus and the miracles of God in the Bible, they're not irrational, they're very reasonable in that they are designed to preserve life, to save life, to promote life.